Okay, Sandy, hey to you. See how many, let's see down here. Let me get straightened out down here with my things. It's hard keeping 2 or 3 up at the same time, knowing what you're doing. Okay, we're going to do Easter eggs tonight, or this evening, tonight, whatever it is. I'm going to do these with you. I'm going to show you how to do some of them. We can't do them all, but I'm going to show you enough to get you going. This one is the black and white stripes. I started painting a white one today, but I didn't get it painted, so we're not going to do the black and white, but we're going to do a pink one. We're going to do, these came from Hobby Lobby, and they come colored, so that's great. And I'm not sure what they're made out of. It's hard, and it's real sturdy, but it don't feel like foam, and I'm not sure what it is, what they're made out of, but they're just really nice. They weren't very much. With 40% off, I'd say they were only a couple dollars. They're not wood. You know, I've got some little wood ones. I bought a bunch of little wood ones some time ago. I had some out over here. I don't know what I've done with it. But I never did get them painted, the little tiny ones. But these are, I want to say some kind of paper mache, but I'm not really sure. But they work out real good. And this is the candle holders that I have used to put them on. These came from Hobby Lobby. And they're not ever on sale because they're only $2.98, so they don't have them on sale. But I ordered them, and I ordered a box of a dozen of them, and got them for $2.98 a piece. And I just painted them white. If you've been with me before, you know that I paint white. I use spray paint. I like to spray because I want a good smooth finish, and I get that better if I use spray paint. So I use Rust-Oleum's paint with primer, white with primer in it. Go outside and spray it. And of course you want matte. Don't get the gloss finish or anything. Be sure that it's matte or flat when you spray it. And you have to go outside and you have to spray it a little bit at a time, you know, because if you don't, you'll get runs on it. And since I did it, you can use it this way or you can use it this way. So I sprayed the bottom also, because you can put your egg on this way and you've got it like this. Or you can turn it upside down and set it in it this way. So it's either way you want to set it. And I did all my candlesticks the same way. And I'm not going to do it with you because they are so simple. The lines are already there. All those lines or indentations are in that glass. So you don't have to pattern anything. You don't have to do nothing. Once you get it painted white, I went down and painted every other stripe. I painted every other stripe black, left it white. Just white on the bottom, and I painted this gold. Now, I use gold. I like the antique look. So this is, my glasses. Okay, this is Deco Arts Empress Gold, and I put a coat of black on underneath it. You can put, I've put red underneath it. You can put any color you want underneath it, but on these I painted that all black first. And then after it was dry, I went back and put a coat of this Empress Gold on it. And that's the gold I like. If I want it real bright gold, then I use the gold in the gold leaf, this stuff. But I don't like to have to clean my brushes after I use that because you can't, it's not water-based, it's oil-based. So you got to use mineral spirits or something. So sometimes if I like that look, then that's what I use. Okay. And I just tied a ribbon around it. So it can go this way or it can go this way. Now I'm going to turn the camera down a little bit and so you can see what I'm doing on the table. Let me get you in a good position here. Okay, I think that's good. Let me turn my light up. Okay, let me get some of my junk out of the way. As you see, I'm a mess. I keep everything organized. Sometimes I can find it and sometimes I can't. But when I sit down here to paint, I have poster board down on my table and I use it, but I get it real dirty and I'm messy. My brushes are piled out and I've got about 300 brushes sitting here around me just like this. I've got one huge brush holder, then I've got a whole bunch of them, so I've got brushes everywhere. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to take a pencil, and what I'm going to do, when I make checks and stripes, girls, well, I'm so organized I can't find my little pattern here that I cut. Let me see where I got it. Okay, let's see if I put it back here. Yeah, here it is. When I make checks or stripes, I want something soft that's pliable, that can either go around that or go up and down it like this to make my pattern. So this is cardstock or poster board, according to what size you want to make it. I have these papers, as you can see, this one's dirty. I have them in all sizes. This one's 1 inch, I have a 3/4 inch, I have an 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I have all different sizes of these, and this is what I use to pattern to make my checks or stripes with. Now, on these eggs, being oval like they are, it's hard to do that. You'll make your checks with those. But what I'm going to do to begin with is you put an X. Just like, this is kind of like cutting a pie. So you put an X on the top, just come across with one, and then turn it and go across with the other one. I don't think you can see that, what I've got that on there. I don't believe it's because it's so faint. I'm using a pencil. And I put an X across there. Then you're going to have to kind of freehand that. I take that X and I follow it down with little hatch marks. Don't try to take that X and go this way and get all the way to the bottom, because there's no way you will get it straight. Okay, you have to do it, edge it just a little bit at a time. So you take your pencil and you just make little cross, little hatch marks all the way down that egg, working your way around till you get right down here to the bottom. Okay, then you go back and you go to the other side and you take the same side and do that one all the way down. Then I take my egg and I turn it the opposite direction and make another. That makes the X. One is this way, one is this way. That makes the X all the way down. Then I follow that line down on both sides. So that makes me have 4. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 marks on that egg. Now I'm going to go between those lines. So I'm going to turn the egg a little bit and I'm going to make another hatch mark, just like you were cutting pieces of a pie, a pizza or a pie or something. You're going to make that cut in the top just exactly like you were going to do that. And then when you pull that across, you start and you go right down. This line is only, they're going to be close together. So I'm going to follow that all the way down, do the same on the other side, follow it all the way down, and then I go back and I make another one, just the opposite of that one. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, and in this one I'm going to do a total of 8. I've got a total of 8 little marks in here. So I've got 1, 2, so I've got 8 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I got more than 8. Let's see, I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've made 12 marks altogether because I've got 3 sections. Let me get the finished one here and you'll be able to see it better. See how I done this? I made this sections. This is what I done. I went down each one, and I wanted these pink ones. The pink ones are left larger. So I've got 2. I hope I'm doing this to where you can understand it. I've got 2 in here that are smaller, and then a large pink one, and then 2 large, 2 large, and 2 enlarged. So I've got 4 pink ones on here and 4 sets of stripes. See that? 4 pink and 4 sets of stripes. And the pink is already on there, so I don't have to paint that. So I'm going to decide then, you're going to decide what you want these other colors to be. You might want them to be black and white, or you might want them to be purple and pink. It's just, you know, you choose your colors. I decided to do them in these shades, and I used, this is Ceramcoat's green tea that I'm using on there, and the other color is Sea Breeze. So I'm going to go in, put out some of my paint over here. Let's see, the 1, 2. Okay. I'm also going to show you how I marked this one. And this one, to put the little flowers on, I'm going to show you how to paint these 2, the striped one and this one. So this one, to put the flowers on, I just made 2. Made 2 hatch marks at the top. I mean 2 X, just made 1 X. I'll get it right in a minute. 2, which made me 4 sections. I've got 4 lines on there, just like putting a ribbon around this egg. So I'm going 1 on each side, and then 1 up and 1 down. And I made those black. And this egg is already the color. It's already this color. So I don't have to do anything to it but just paint the black lines in. Okay, and that's about a number 4 flat brush. You got to be real careful with your brush when you do your lines. You got to have a steady hand and to do your lines in there. Then I'm going to put the little roses. I got those cut. I've got all these cut out. I'm going to put the little rose things on there. I'm going to decoupage them on. Now, when we did the project the other night, I shared with you the rooster that I had put on the plate. And this evening, I will do the same. If you're good enough to attend the live and come along live with me, then I'm going to always share my pattern with you. Since I make my own patterns and do my own designing most of the time, so I'm going to share that with you that's in the group. So when we finish tonight, I will post it, and you will get a sheet. This is a... Let me get it here. You will get a sheet just like this. This is done on rice paper. And I will post this picture in here with the sheet with all the flowers on it. And then all you have to do is print it out and cut them out. You cut them out. And I just use little scissors, and I like these to be cut precise. So I cut them right around the design so I can use them that way. I cut them out. You use some small scissors, and you go around them pictures, go around that design. Let me show you here. You really, if you got a good pair of scissors, these little scissors come from Hobby Lobby in the sewing section, and I love them. They've got real sharp, short blades on them, and I love them. But I'm so bad to cut things I shouldn't have, so I dull them real fast. But if you start cutting, and you just hold your scissors in one place, and you move your paper, move your paper instead of your scissors, and you'll be around that little flower in no time. See, I've already got one side completely cut out. And I'm moving my paper instead of my scissors is just almost practically standing still, except when I turn the page all the way around. Now, see, I've already got that little flower cut out. So you got, a lot of times if I'm cutting out stuff precise like this, I'll sit and do it while I'm watching TV. Let me see if I can get that light a little better. So I'll give you this pattern. I'll put the pattern in the comments like I did with the roosters, and then you pick it up, put it in your file, and you'll be able to print it then to do what you want with. And if you want them smaller, if you want your flowers to be smaller, say you were doing the little tiny eggs and you wanted your flowers to be smaller, then do the copy and paste so you got 2 of them, and then print them as 5 by 7. If you print them as 5 by 7 on one sheet, you're going to have them real tiny, real small. Okay, so we'll do that too tonight. Now let's see over here. So I need some black. I've got this stripe put on this one. I'm going to put out my black first. Over here on my palette, I'm going to put out some black paint. And I always use Delta. I started with Delta and folk art and all that back 35, 40 years ago, so that's what I like. The sad thing is you learn to use a product and then they discontinue it on you. And that hurts my feelings when they do that. I don't like them to shock me and all of a sudden I can't buy something that I've used for 10 years. Okay, now I'm going to find me a small brush here. Okay, this is a number 6. And it's maybe a 1/4 inch. It's not very big. Okay, another thing, girls, when I buy brushes, now this smaller one, you have to buy them about individually. But when I buy brushes, I use so many and go through them so quick that I buy Hobby Lobby's what they call class packs. And I'll show you one here. Okay. This is one package of brushes, and these are really great. If you go in, they've got a real good chisel edge on them. You can clip the ends if you need to, and I use them. And this, on the week they have the brushes on sale, you can get every one of these. I think there's 25 or 30. I don't know exactly how many's in that. 3, 6, 9, 12. 1, 2, 3. I think that's 9 in a thing. 36 brushes you get, and you can get those for $10. So if you use and are hard on your brushes, you can afford to use those a little bit and then trash them. You know, you use them for other things because they'll wear out. But always clean your brushes, and the ones that you're using and you want them to stay flat, always when you clean them, prep them to where they're flat and keep them that way. Keep a good sharp edge on that, and you'll be able to paint with that. So I've got my, you can't hardly see it, but I do have my stripe down through there that I'm going to follow. And I'm going to just pick up a little bit of that paint on my brush. I don't want much paint. I don't never go into that big pile of paint. I just pick up, sneak right into it and load one side flat, pulling it out, and load the other side flat. Always keep it flat, okay? Then I'm going to go down, and I think I've got one that's too wide. Okay, I'm going to have to go to a smaller brush because I want it to fit in my space there. Okay, this one's down a little bit. This is a 4. I'm going to go down to this 4. Okay, so I'm going to load it. You want your brush to fit what you're doing. Don't try to work a big brush into a little space, or don't waste your time using a little brush in a big space. Okay, here we go. I'm putting my finger. My little finger is what guides that brush and what keeps it in place. Without that little finger, I wouldn't be able to paint. And I'm going to come in, start at the top, and pull that down. And you do have to be kind of steady hand to get you a good straight line down through there. Okay, now if I don't talk while I'm painting, you'll know it's because I need to concentrate to get that straight. Black is not a very forgiving color, so you have to be real careful with it because you can't just wipe it off. Of course, you can always paint over top of something. You can paint the whole leg black and put polka dots on it. It wouldn't matter because there's so many different designs for you to do. I've always been I work fast, so. Because if you work to sell and you do craft shows, those of you that do shows, I've been there and done that. I might go back and do the Gatlinburg show this year. I might. My son has been working, does a lot of things for me in the woodwork and stuff, and we've talked about it. We might decide to go back and do Gatlinburg in October. If I do, I'll just do 2 weeks. But if you're working production to go into a show like that for 18 days, you got to be fast or you won't go in there with enough inventory. And if you don't, you're going to lose your butt. If you go into a show like that and you don't have plenty of inventory, you're going to just be wasting your money and your time both. There's another friend on here, joins us on here. She does angels. She does the show. We met at the show, and she does the show with us. She does beautiful needled angels. Okay, I'm almost to the bottom of that one. Okay. Okay, got that stripe all the way down. Now I'm going to turn my thing. I'm not going to go all the way to the other side because I may get my thumb in that. So I'm just going to go right to the next stripe so that I won't have to move my thumb. Watch where I'm putting it to hold on to that egg and come up here and start with the next one. Shame I can't hear you all. We could talk if I could hear you talk. I run out of things to say. And I don't think the weather here is ever going to get warm. It's been cold today and it's supposed to be down cold tonight. we're way behind in the weather. Okay. Okay, girls. Yeah, I'll try to look up and see if you're asking me questions when I can. And Nancy, I do always use a wet palette. And I think somebody asked those about the other day, asked me about the wet palettes, and I think you can get them at Hobby Lobby. And when I wore out I've had mine for probably 30 years, so when I wore out the sponge in it, I just bought me a package of sponges. For a while I used those car chamois. I would buy me a big piece of car chamois and then I cut it to fit my box, because you need a sponge under your paper there to keep it wet. And the sponge is what you wet, and then you lay your paper. And my paper is, I now get it, just Sam's, I get the, like the hot dog wrapping wax paper, because it fits, it comes in a box and just pops out, and I can pop that out a sheet at a time and use it in my palette. I like that. I use a wet palette, and I also use a regular water container for art that's got the grids in the bottom of it. This is my water. See, this is my water thing. It's nasty, but it's got, you put the water in both sides, so it's got one side where you can keep your water kind of clean, and then the other side has got a grid in it, so when you clean your brushes, you can run them across the grid to help get the paint out of them. Okay, it's number 2. Okay. If you don't have a steady hand, Dana, it's the finger, the little finger, that gives you the steady hand. If I just tried to hold my hand out there and paint that, there's no way I could get a line down through there by doing that. So anything I do, I use that little finger as my guide, and the finger controls what I do instead of the brush. As I move my finger down that piece, then my brush moves along with it too. I've been printing designs all day too, filling orders with my designs, and I did a few new digitals today. Some days when I sit down there, I think, well, I don't know what I'm going to do today. But once you create one and you get it created, then your mind goes to something else automatically. Well, that works, so I think I can do this way. And first thing you know, you've done another one. So I can do, if I sit there an hour or so, I can do 4, 5, 6 designs in that time. Okay, now I'm almost to I got one more section there to do that. And that's dry over on the other side. It's already dry now. The varnish, these are varnished when I finish. Of course, if you've been watching me long, you know I varnish everything. Everything needs a protection on it when you paint or when you do something. Decoupage paint always needs protection on it so that you can clean it. If you make something and you don't varnish it or don't, put your top coat on it, then you'll never be able to dust it. And it'll get dirty on you. Went back out to Hobby Lobby this week and picked up 20 more rabbits. I sell rabbits if I have them. I sell them all year round. People buy them even Christmas time, so I like to keep them in my shop. I sold Halloween stuff last week. So if a person is a decorator, they like to decorate for every holiday. So all the time I did the show, I've always been a holiday designer, doing the holiday things. So people would come in the show and they'd say, well, I've got Valentine's, now I need Easter and 4th of July and so on. Okay, I've got all 4 of those on. Now I'm going to set that down just a minute here. And then I'm going to get my little flowers and go right ahead and put the flowers on that one. Okay. Tell says, wish I had everything in my mind made. I'd have a warehouse full. Yeah, your mind goes wild. And if you're like me, you dream about it. I wake up, used to be when I did wooden things for shows, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and somebody told me one time, said, keep a notepad by your bed and write that down. And sometimes I would do that. I'd wake up and I'd think, gosh, I could do that. Or I'd dream that I was making that. And I would write it down. And then the first thing you know, I'd have it to the wood shop for Daryl to cut out and we'd be making that. So your mind goes all the time when you're a crafter. Okay, now these little flowers, and I'm going to put two on a section, and they are so small I don't have to. If they were very big, I would cut into that to get them to lay down flat, but they're so small that I don't have to do that. So I'm going to get my brush with my Mod Podge, and if you're new, Mod Podge goes in a small container and a little bit of water on it. I never use out of that big jug because that just goops up your Mod Podge and you can't, it just ruins what you have in the bottle. So I always put out a little bit in that container, put me a little water in it, use it, put the lid on it, and that's for the day. And that makes your thing last. I buy it by the gallon, and a gallon will last me a year and a half as much as I work. Okay, I've put some Mod Podge on there, glue, I'm going to call it glue because that's easier to say. And then I'm just going to take my finger and put that down. Now working with rice paper is way more forgiving than working with napkins, excuse me. Okay. And I'm not going to top coat any of them until I get them all on there because I don't want to get my finger in that. So I'm going to mix a little bit. That little one should go to the other side. Now I'm going to go down here. I'm going to lay this one kind of across a little bit. Put me a little bit of glue on there. Doesn't take very much to glue anything down. A lot of people create problems because they use way too much glue, either under their piece or over top of that piece. It takes very little amount of glue to actually glue that down to your piece. And then it doesn't take much to put your top coat on. When you put your top coat on, if you've put it on properly, it'll dry in 15-20 minutes. It'll be dry. Okay. Now I've got those two on. Well, I ended up getting them in the same shape there. Didn't mean to do that, but I'll leave them that way. Now let's come over here and I'm going to put a little bit of a different one, a little different design of a flower on this section. Okay. Come right in here. That one on. Go down here and put me another one on. Turn it this way so I get them one turn one way and one turn the other. Sneak that glue right up under there till you get all that glued down good. And that's just as smooth as can be. You have no wrinkles when you're doing that. Now watch your fingers when you're going around it. You don't get on your pieces. Okay? Go around here and do the next section. this one this way. When I varnish, sometimes I spray. If I spray, I use Rust-Oleum's. It's called Rust-Oleum's 2-in-1. It's gloss spray from Rust-Oleum. I will use those when I can spray. But these are hard to spray because you got no way to hold on to them. So I've used a brush-on varnish, which I use Josanya. Josanya is an artist, a folk art artist, and she has a whole line of paints and stuff. Great. She's been in business for 50 years or more. Years ago, when I got to travel to California, the highlight of my trip was going to her place. And my aunt bought a rocking chair from her at the time. And I told my aunt, you be sure when you pass away that it's in your will that I get that rocking chair. And she's still living, so I'm still waiting. But she has a whole line of products and does beautiful folk artwork. I think her son, I don't know if she still paints, but her son does. David, I believe is his name. But I use her varnish. I buy it in the satin. I buy it now from Dick Blick. I always bought supplies wholesale, and I dealt with Viking Woodcraft, which is a big company, and they're out west, and I dealt with them for probably 30 years. But now they're so far away from me, and it costs me so much shipping that I can do better, buying smaller quantities or even paying retail and not having to pay so much for the shipping. So I think my last varnish came from Dick Blick. And that's just dickblick.com. It's on Amazon too, but it's more expensive on Amazon. Okay, now I'm going to go back and put a little bit of glue on top of those flowers to seal them down there. Okay, not too much. Going around my piece, trying to keep my fingers out of it. Okay, one more section there. Now I'm going to set that one aside to dry. So I'm going to set it up here, put my brush in the water. Now let's see if I've got any questions that I need to ask, and then we'll go on to that next one that I need to answer. Okay, let's see here. Let me scroll down a little bit and see. I either have to take my glasses off. My paintings are... Looks like that too. That's cute. Good, Kate. Thank you. You're quite welcome. All you girls, I'm happy to have you on here. Not either. Windy and cold. Bad there. The weather, the whole weather all over the United States is bad. It's just really weird. Good evening, Liz. Glad to have you. Janice, first time catching you live. I'm glad to have you. Okay. Dana wants to order some designs. Yeah, you can order them digital. If you've got a printer, girls, it's easier to just print your own. But if you don't, I print them for you. So they're priced both ways. They're $3 if you buy them digital from my Facebook. Now, if you go on my Facebook page, of course, I pay Etsy page, then I pay Etsy, for being on there, so they're a little more expensive on there. But if you buy them through my page, my Facebook page, they're $3 for the digital or $3.99 printed. And then no matter how many I mail you, they're $5 one cover for, for mailing them to you. And Cindy, I am using Mod Podge. I use just plain matte Mod Podge, nothing, nothing in particular. I've never tried the others, the outdoor or the things that's dishwasher safe. I've never tried that, so I couldn't tell you much about them. Okay, I learned from watching your last video that my printer lets the rice paper go through it without taping another paper on the back. So that's a good thing. You want that. If you just try it and see, all you're going to do, if it don't work the first time, you're going to jam it up, and then you just have to take it out and try it again. So, all you can do is try. And even now, sometimes when I'm printing, after a while, I've printed a few, and then all of a sudden it'll jam up on me. The other night it jammed up so bad. The other day I had to call my son in. He had to take it apart and clean the rollers and do all kinds of stuff to get it back to working again. And then sometimes I have to attach that page to another sheet of paper to get them to go through. I've got so many different printers, and every one of them's different. Okay, now I'm going to do this pink egg. And I went in, and you want to be sure too, and mark. If you don't mark, make you a mark of some kind of what you're doing, inevitably you will mess up. If you're doing black and white, put an X on everything you're going to do black. This one, I'm doing 2 colors. So I've put an X down for my green and a check down for my turquoise color. So I know everything that's got an X on it's going to get this green on it. And this is a Ceramcoat color, and it's called Green Tea. But you can choose any colors. This is not a set color that that you have to use for a thing. Now these little stripes are bigger, so I am going back to the bigger brush. I'm going back to the size 6, and I'm going to go in here and start at the top. And there is a at the top, I'm going to have to turn that brush a little bit on its edge to get right up in that, because it tapers off at the top to real small. And this will have to have 2 coats of every color on it. Okay, coming down. I will go around the egg and paint one color all the way around, and then go back and paint the other color. Okay. You want to be sure you cover your pencil marks. When you're putting your pencil marks on, try to make them as faint as you can make them and still be able to see them. This one, I outlined these little spaces. After I put it on there, I went down and made a black line too, so I outlined them. That kind of gets rid of your pencil mark if you're doing an outline. Okay, I've got the first one. Now I'm going to skip that one. Move around here to the other section here. At the top, slimmed her down at the top, and pull it down. I'll show you how to make the checks on the black one, even though we're not doing a checked one, but I will show you how to put the checks on there. You'll learn as you go. It's just like on the rabbits now. Most of the time on the rabbits, I do the checks or the stripes with just, I just freehand them on there. I don't have to put a guide. The more you do, the better you get at it. Naturally, with anything. Okay. Okay, stepping right on around. The rice paper I print on, girls, comes from Amazon. If you go down my page, you'll be able to see a sample of it. I put a sample on there of the varnish that I use, and the rice paper is on there. It comes in larger sheets than your printer, so you have to cut it. I have a paper cutter, and I just cut it to fit. Cut it down the size of a sheet of paper. Okay. Okay. Coming around. It gets too quiet. I always like to teach in a live class so you can be able to talk to each other even when you're working. This makes it odd to not be able to hear nobody and to talk with you, because I could talk without reading the comments if I could hear you. Some of them can talk and keep it going and keep the conversation going and all. That's harder for me. Okay, that's one color down and one coat. So these will have to have two coats on these colors. So I'm going to put one on, then I'm going to go back with both colors, and then I'm going to go back and show you to finish the other one. Okay, let me put me some more paint out here. Just watching me just paint the same thing over and over, and that paint stopped up. Okay, now I'm down to my turquoise color. The main thing, the painting part, is not so much to, something that you need to see as much as just getting your pattern on and knowing how to get your egg started, or anything you're working on, especially when you're doing something like this. If you're doing something where the design changes all the time, then yes, you need that, but otherwise you're just doing a repeat of the same thing over and over. Okay. Okay. Watching me do this is like watching paint dry, girls. Okay, now you get the idea. I'm going to go, rather than sit there and paint that all the way around and have to put 2 coats of everything on there, I'm going to go back and paint this one section again so I can outline it and show you how to do it. And then each section will be the same thing. So I'm going to put a second coat on this section. Then we'll go back and decorate the other one. I'm so crowded here with not much of a space to work. So when I came from West Virginia, lived in West Virginia, and for all those years I had a studio. And I had a great place to work and teach and do. But when I came to Tennessee, I intended to retire. But it didn't work out that way, so I ended up just painting, and we downsized big time, house-wise. So I paint in part of my living room, family room. We do have a big wood shop. Okay, got that second color on there. Okay, Dana says you can use either inkjet or laser printer. You can. The laser printers are much more expensive. The laser ink is more expensive than the inkjet, but the laser, you do get more prints out of a thing of your ink than you do the other. And sometimes with your inkjet printers, you need to spray. You need to, and just take cheap hairspray. We all, if you're as old as me, you used old cheap hairspray when you was kids, like Rave and those, and just take a little bit of cheap hairspray and spray your paper just a little bit after it comes out of the inkjet printer, and you won't have a bit of trouble with it. And sometimes I don't even do that. Sometimes it just, works. But now my laser, I've got 2 laser printers, and one of them, I cannot get it to paper to go through it in any way, shape, or form, and it was about $600. And then I've got another one that was about $500, and I have to attach a piece of paper to a paper to get it to go through that one. I've got another printer that prints nothing but black, and that's what I print postage on. Then I've got 2 more or 3 more inkjets. My son told me yesterday, he said, we need to build you a rack that just holds your printers. I said, well, you build me a rack, but then you've got to build me a place to put it, because I don't have anywhere to put that rack. They're just scattered out. Okay, I've got 2 coats on that side now. On this side right here, I've got the 2 coats on there, so 2's going to do it. So now I'm going to go back with my black paint and a liner brush, and I'm going to put a little fine line down between those as soon as I find my brush. Let's see. Okay, I've got a little tiny liner, stripers, whatever. You just have to kind of play with them to, to learn how to use them. This is a striper. On a striper, the brush may be a ½ inch, more than a ½ inch. It's 3/4 of an inch to an inch long on stripers. This is a little bitty liner brush, and I'm going to use it to try with this one. And I put the brush in the water, just the brush, not the silver part. Just put the brush down in the water a little bit. Then go over to my black paint and pull it out to the side. I'm loading that brush flat. And then after I load it, I'm going to roll it to a point. Then I'm going to go in, take my little finger, Set that brush down and very lightly pull a little stroke line, little line down that piece. You go as far as your paint goes, and then you got to stop and reload again. Okay, got to get me some more paint. Load it flat, roll it to a point, and your paint should be just about the consistency of ink so that it just rolls right off that brush. Not getting enough of a load to go far enough. It does take a steady hand to do that, to get that line on there. But you don't have to put a line down through there. There's always something else we can do to do that. See, you got a black line that goes all the way down. And I would put one there, and one in that one. Okay, so I'm going to quit on that one. And I'm going to go back to this other one. And we're going to check this one. Just see all my flowers are dry on it. And I'm going to go in now. Get a little bit of paint on there. And I'm going to put some dots on it. And this time I am going to use the liquid gold. So I'm going to use my liquid gold because I want those to be gold. I want this color gold, but I'm going to use Q-tip. So I'm going to take a Q-tip. Dana, I can't recommend a printer to you, honey, because there's so many different ones, and if I'd tell you a particular one, then and it would be something you couldn't use, then that would be a disaster. I will let you know what I have. I'll give you the numbers. I'll post them and tell you the numbers on the ones that I have. I have two laser laser printers. One's a Canon, the one that was so expensive, and like I said, I can't get none of my rice paper to go through it. The other one is an HP. I'll post the number on it, and I've been able to use it, but like I said, I have to attach that paper. I attach the rice paper to a sheet of regular paper. And when I do it, I use those little ink things. I mean little sticky things. I don't have one sitting over here close to me. But it's the scrapbook things. It's the little tape gun looking, I don't know what you call it. But when you pull down on it, it has sticky tape on the inside of it. It's how you put pictures down in a photo album. I've got a little spot there that didn't glue down. When you're doing that, and that's what I use to attach the two papers together, so I don't have no tape or nothing that shows on that. I attach the two together by just putting some of that across the top of the sheet and down the side, just two little spots, but don't put any on the bottom because you want the air, the bottom of the papers where you've attached them together, you want the bottom to be open. So if there's air under there, if it don't have room to give, then it may wrinkle your paper before it comes out. But you can try that. And when if you use the rice paper that I use, girls, I print on the rough side. There's a smooth side and a rough side on that paper. And I print on the rough side. Now, I'm going to take this Q-tip, and so there's no straggly hairs on it. Cotton, I'm going to put it in my mouth, which I shouldn't do, but that's what I'm going to do. Then I've got it on my thing. Then I'm going to come over here to my gold, touch it down in my gold, just the tip into my gold, and I'm going to dab it on my paper a little bit. Then I'm going to go in here and just set it straight down. See, that makes a pretty little dot. And you'll have to pick up the gold pretty often, okay? Just come and put your dots on. You can, anything that makes you a good size, you can do, they have little paint dauber things, and sometimes I've used them if I want a bigger dot. And sometimes I want little tiny ones, then I use my stylist. And I, put my stylist in there. See how pretty that is with the gold dots on it? And then those have to dry. So I'm going to do two sections of it that'll have to dry. But I'm going to put it in my gold. dab it on my palette a little bit, and then go in here and hit it. Okay, that one too tiny. Okay, I've got 2 sections that are done. And you could put those dots any color you wanted. If you didn't want them gold, you could go back in there with some black and put them on. Always put your lid on that gold paint immediately, because if you spill that stuff, it's a disaster. You can get it on Amazon too, that liquid gold. You can get it. I've got a liquid leaf sitting here. I've got it in different things. Sitting here, I've got a classic gold and a brass color. So I've got other colors too in my things. Okay, now I'm going to show you one how to do the checks on. If you're going to check one, let me get another heart back here, another thing back here. So when I'm going to put, if I'm going to put checks on, I put those lines down. You know, do that X and put those lines down, and put it in the number. See this one that I did here? You'll see it's got 4 sections on it. So I just made that X one time each direction. Went across this way and across this way. And then, well, let's see, I did that. No, I did go. I went to, okay, there's an X this way, and this. Yeah, I did 4 for this one, like this one, and then I put 2 more sections on that. So you have to bring those lines down. You're coming down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're coming down the thing 8 times. Okay. Then I'm going to use my paper. This is my paper that I made. If you want them 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, whatever size you want to make your checks with. I start at the top. This one was smaller. Start at the top up there, right in the middle of where your X is at, and I make the first mark here where the paper is. Okay, then from that mark I go right on down with that same little mark on there, and I do that all the way down till I get to the bottom, making that mark with my paper all the way to the bottom. Then I'll move around. I may not have to do every one, because you're going to have to pencil them on by eye. So I'll go back around maybe two sections and do that again, and go down, hold my paper in place, go down, make a mark. I'm just making a little check there, cross. Then after I get those on, I've etched these down through here like I showed you on the other. Now you've got to go around this way. But if you've got a line here and a line around here and one here, you've got 4 lines around there. You can get from one to the other with just making little hatch marks and get them on there straight. If you try to take that and just go around like this, there's no way you're going to end up, over here you're going to end up or down. You're not going to have them straight. So just take your pencil and etch them. You know, put little hatch marks from one of the marks you put in there over to the next one. Turn it and go over to the next one. And keep working your way right on around, like so, till you get all the way around that thing with your pencil. So you've got marks going this way, all the way down, then you've got marks going around. And your size of your checks will be determined by this. But now this is little at the top, gets big, and little at the bottom. So your checks are not going to be identical. See, I've got a little check up here, a little one, then I've got a bigger one. The biggest one is right here. So it's going to be that way because you're coming out and out, your checks are going to be different. It's the same way. Let me get a rabbit over here and show you. Okay, it's the same way on this one. See, I marked this one. You can't see it, but I marked it. And I did that rabbit the same way. I set him down there like so, and I made a mark here and a mark here, and come right on around, and I just made 1 hatch mark for each line. Then I just took my pencil and I etched those lines all the way to the bottom and up to the top. Well, naturally, this thing is bigger at the bottom than it is at the top, so there's no way you're going to have them the same size. So your line at the top, it's got less space between, and this one down here's got a bigger. So your checks on the bottom are going to be way much bigger than your ones on the top. Okay? So, understand what I'm saying? I hope you do. Okay? And that shows you how. And like I said, when you're painting the candle holder, all you need to do is follow these lines. The indentations is already on this candle holder. So something like that that's already indented, I've done a lot of things like that. Sometimes you'll get vases and they'll be indented around. As long as you've got an even number, if you're going to make stripes, you got to have an even number all the way around. So if it's got to be 6, 8, 10, 4, just so it's even, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, whatever. But you got to have an even number for stripes and for checks. Now when you're making checks on something else, something other, then you would start in the middle, make your first check, and then grow up, especially if it's something that's flat. You go up with that. But just sit down with a sheet of poster paper and cut these out. I have them in all sizes. I do them in all lengths. See this one, if I'm doing a tray? If I'm doing a tray, I do this. So I can bend that. I can do anything I want with that. I can make circles. I can make it straight lines, checks this way. That makes it so much easier. And when I wear one out, I just make me another. I take a ruler. I have a ruler like this one that's got an edge on it. And I hold that to my paper, lay it down on the counter, hold that down, and then I mark. This one is 1.5 inches. This paper's 1.5 inches. I do that all the way down, make me a straight line, then I cut that out. So this cardboard, this piece of cardboard is 1.5 inches wide. This one's 1 inch. I've got them up to 2 or 3 inches, just according to whether I want to work on something large or something smaller. Okay, let's see if you got any questions now. Okay. Says, I'm new watching you. I've been painting checks for years, and you are the best teacher ever. I appreciate that, Kate. Trying to make checks with something that's hard, like a hard ruler, you can do that when your surface is flat. But if you're making checks on something that's rounded or something that's not flat, then you got to have something flexible. There are some flexible rulers, a few. I have one ruler that we use out in the wood shop to make ovals and circles with. I think I bought it at Hobby Lobby, bought them at Hobby Lobby in the art section. And it's rubber. You can just bend it up and down, but it's not very wide. You can make a circle with it, or you can make an oval with it, but you couldn't do checks. But cutting the papers makes it so much more simple to, to make those checks. Okay, let's see. Removable tape from scrapbook area at the craft store. Yeah, it's a little tape dispenser. It comes. It's not really tape. It's more like, girls, I don't know how to explain it to you. I have them. Oh, okay. Here's one in my box. Okay, this is called AdTech. It's removable tape, and that is tape in that dispenser. See, it's not tape. It's like glue. But you roll it this way, and it leaves a little spot there. And you just do that around your page. Put it at the top when you're attaching your two papers together. Take your 2 pages. I don't have 2 here, but let's see. Anyway, you take 2 pieces. Okay, say I wanted to attach these 2 together. I would attach the top, put you some tape on here, and about 2 down. But don't put it across the bottom because it needs for the air to get in there. And if you put it across the bottom and it goes through your machine and it doesn't have a way to let that air out between the sheets, then it's going to wrinkle up on you. Okay, and Kay, you've been painting 20 years. I've been painting 40 years. And I love it now as much as I did when I first started. I opened a craft shop in the late 70s, right after my son was born. I opened a craft shop in West Virginia. My mother had property in a building, and she said, I grew up in business. They had business, and she said, won't you put something in that building? I said, well, what would I put in there? And nobody knew we had craft shops nowhere. So I did that, and we started with macrame, and I macrameed. I've done macrame, I've done needle crafts, I do cake decorating, I do candy making, I've done it all through the years. But a lady came into our area to work on a construction job. Her husband was an engineer on a construction job, and she painted. And I started with her when I saw what she done, and she had lost the fingers on her right hand, and she still could paint beautiful. And I painted with her 1.5 years. As long as she was there in West Virginia, I painted with her every Monday night. And I learned, and I told her, I said, when you leave, I'll never paint again. But I did, and I love it. And then 12 years later, I closed my shop, and I went to artwork full time. And I taught classes at home, taught in the studio, and I traveled. We traveled the East Coast, up and down the East Coast, working craft shows and doing that till when I came to Tennessee in 2009, I thought I'd retire and, not do it anymore. And then, but after a couple of years, I was so bored I didn't know what to do. So I had to get back into it. And that's when I went to Etsy then, started with Etsy. Tana, you're the one I've been talking to in the things. I'm in Kodak. So we've talked in the chat, and she's wanted to come out and paint with me. So we're going to do that. I'm going to take a trip next week and be gone for a few days. And then I'm going to paint with her for a few hours one day. Okay? Okay, girls, if you got any more questions, but I'll do what I can to answer them for you. And I'll go back and read all the comments, and I'll answer any questions that I haven't answered now. I'll read them and answer them for you. And I will put you a sheet of the print of the little flowers in the section. I'll get out get my tongue untwisted in a minute here. I'll put them in the comments. There you go. And you grab it. You take it and put it in there. I'll leave it in there till sometime tomorrow, and then I'll remove it again. So if you need them, you get them and save them to your thing. Janet, I bought the eggs at Hobby Lobby. And our Hobby Lobby here this week didn't have any more. I went out to get some rabbits, and I did buy a bunch of rabbits. And, I'll tell you another thing I found out there. Let's see, I believe I brought it over here. Yeah, I found these little pedestals in the Easter section. So if you go back out there, this is a super little piece. They had these in 2 sizes, and they're glass. And it was $7.99, and this was the larger one. $7.99, and I got 40% off. Well, that will be perfect with a clear plate. You can get clear plates, or even one of the chargers. One of the chargers may not be too big to put on there. But that will paint up so pretty with a plate on top of it. And you can glue it down there. You can glue it with Gorilla Glue. We'll glue glass together. And you can glue that together. But if you're out there, pick you up some of these. This is white, but I still spray this white because you can't paint on this slick surface. So I still spray it with the same white that I use, that I use otherwise. But if you're out there, they had these in 2 different sizes, and I picked up about 6 of each size so I can work with them, do something with them.